Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. Today, Monday, February 18th. This video will be going up 16th. Is it 16th? Yeah, looks like 16th. This video will be going up on tomorrow on Tuesday morning when you'll be seeing it. Okay, so this is Twitter today. Refresh it. If I try to open some of these. One of these was supposed to be Kash Patel praising our greatest ally, our greatest friend we've ever had, Israel. But I have other stuff here for us to watch. To start off with, and we're going to go to Erika J. Kirk's. So this is Gaza Strip, July 8th, 2023. This is the same street. We kind of know this, but it's good to have a reminder that Israel went in and destroyed basically every building in Palestine. And this, and this was not, it got worse, right? This is not the completed work of their demolition teams. So this, that's one place to start off. Okay, so then this.
That fight to release the Epstein files came directly from President Trump. And I know a lot of people have a hard time with that, but that is the truth. He fought the hardest to stop these files from being released.
Yeah, well, I mean, that should be fairly obvious to everybody. If Trump wanted them out, they would be out. You think that Pambani was saying no to Trump, right? Kash Patel, these people were all saying no to him. He really wanted them out, but it was, like everything he said about it is like, even most recently, I mean, it's that somehow this was some Democrat hoax like Russia that was concocted by them years and years ago, and they didn't use it during the election when the Democrats have been clear that they don't want anything to do with Epstein until now. They didn't do anything during the Biden administration or before, and that they're the ones pushing this when it's always been right wing and the truth community. And so, I mean, like, it's not believable what he's saying to anybody who's half awake. And if you still believe it, like, holy shit, right? If you still believe what Trump's saying about this, you might not care and say it doesn't matter. I still love Trump. But if you believe what he's saying, like, Jesus Christ. So this is Alex Soros. The Soros that's famous. And this is Huma Abedin, Hillary Clinton's, ex-lover and Anthony Weiner's ex-wife. And holy shit, can you be more fucking ghoulish than this? Like, Jesus Christ. Like, what's... This is some, like, Crypt Keeper shit here. Speaking of that, let's go to Erika J. Kirk's. Okay, so somebody sent me this clip on... It was a shorter clip, so I found the whole thing. This is the happy Kirk couple. It was 7 months ago, so I think that's 2 months. I think it was July when this happened. And, he was shot in September, so... This is their last public appearance before he was shot. And it was kind of featuring Erika in her spoofy pink dress. Right? She was a fashion designer. Anyways.
Hi, Mr. and Mr. Kirk. My name is...
Mr. and Mr. Kirk? Did you just say Mr. and Mr. Kirk?
Mr. and Mr. Kirk.
Mr. and Mr. Kirk.
Women's Leadership Summit is all about. How great is that?
Women's Leadership Summit.
Next question.
Hi, Mr. and Mr. Kirk. My name is Nevaeh. I'm 18 years old, and I was homeschooled my whole life. And
good for you, Nevaeh. Fucking homeschooled.
Just graduated last year.
Woo! Yeah, woo!
So right now I'm in that period of my life where I'm trying to establish myself. So I've been working for myself online as a YouTuber and a podcaster
Boom.
from the time I was 15.
Like, give me just a general layabout. That's not a real job.
I'm actually trying to work for you right now, so that's what I've been focusing on.
Okay, well, they don't hire straight girls. They hire just gay dudes and like straight girls that they're gonna work 48 hours a day until they quit.
But I do
48 hours straight.
have a really strong desire as a Christian to eventually get married and have children, and I want to homeschool my kids as well eventually. So I'm wondering what your advice is for balancing those two desires and what to prioritize at what stage of your life, since women can't have it all.
So this is first of all, he's gonna have Erica answer this. Now, we have experts. I talk about the experts all the time, like people who are at CNN and MSNBC. There's a lack of true wisdom in America. Like there's a lack of, like they just manufacture gurus and experts. Like people, become famous for something. Like you just, whatever. There's some manufactured story. Like Savannah Guthrie might, like, she, not Savannah Guthrie, her mom might, like survive this thing. Like that's the main story today. So I think they don't have anything to start with. I turned on the TV this morning, the CNN, and they were covering Savannah Guthrie. I've been turning the TV on in the morning, and we usually put on the fireplace. Like, so we have that, when it was cold, but now I have some tropical islands thing, and then we have our rebounder, that little trampoline thing that we've been using, which I've been really enjoying. So we can look at this tropical thing or, whatever. But it was on the news when I turned it on. And they're talking about Savannah Guthrie, right? So, but her mom, she could be all of a sudden famous because she survived this thing, right? Like whatever reason, like you could be a manufactured war hero. Remember there was that girl and she was supposed to have Jessica something. She saved a bunch of people in the Iraq War, and she came out and said, no, I had a broken leg and I was just cowering, right? But like whatever reason, you become something. Like you get a job, at the New York Times, or you covered something, you write an article, and all of a sudden you're a person, you're a pundit, you're a person that people listen to, right? And then in this case, it's the Kirks. Now, the Kirks are in front of you because Charlie Kirk accepted a lot of shekels. Like he wasn't really a good public speaker at first. I think he did a pretty good job of doing these things. And they're pretty smart. I mean, they're above average IQ, like these guys, the Kirks. Like they have something. But, they're just put out there. Like they haven't done anything. Like, what I'm contrasting this to is like spirituality, like the difference between somebody who is a spiritual person and has done something in their spiritual journey. And that's what these two people are presented as. Good Christians, right? These are good Christians. We're good Christians. And we've seen this before with like, Jim and Tammy Faye Baker, like these people. And Jim Baker was banging dudes and Tammy Faye was addicted to pills, and, they're fucked up people. But they're out there talking about Jesus and the Bible. But why? Like, why are you listening to them? Well, because they've been put out in front of you, and you're like lost, and you're looking for somebody. But are they really good Christians? Are they really good? Are they saints? Are they spiritual people? Do they know what they're talking about? And Erika Kirk is propped up here just because she married Charlie, right? Like she couldn't hold an audience on her own. Like you guys people will find people on the internet, like you guys who listen to me regularly. Like you find people that you think, oh, this person knows something. This person, has something to offer. They have something inside of them that is going to be beneficial to me, right? Their point of view, the way that they think about things, that they've achieved something as a person internally. And, real people who have something to offer, it's harder to find them because they're not going to be pushed out by the mainstream media. they're not going to be pushed out by the beast, because the beast isn't looking for people to tell you the truth, right? They're not looking for people who are spiritual or have, real connection to God. Like, that would be fucking awful for them, right? And so this young woman's coming here, and she's asking, what has Erika Kirk done in her life, right? Now, she's smart, like she's not stupid. She's got whatever it is. But, and she sounds like these evangelical Christian type people, but even in her own religion, they celebrate the fucking Sabbath, right? Like Charlie Kirk's last book was about, stop in the name of God. This celebrate Sabbath on Saturday. Like, if you understand anything to do, and again, I'm not even a Christian, like I know more about this and have a better perspective of it, because, there's this unholy marriage between Christianity and Judaism. Like, Jesus left Judaism behind. Like, he's either still he was either Jewish when he died or he wasn't. Then that means all his followers should still be Jewish. You're doing something else. He broke free from his religion, right? This is Swami Vivekananda's great saying: "Is a religion is a great thing to be born in, but a horrible thing to die in," right? And so, for Jesus, he didn't die in his religion. He didn't. He became something else. He became spiritual. He found divinity within him. He traveled to India. He explored. He did some yogic practices. This is becoming spiritual. This is lost on almost all Christians. And certainly the organized religion doesn't want you to know this. And the Jewish community didn't accept him as a saint, right? So if you're born in a religion, like Jesus was born in the Jewish religion, and they have this thing called the Messiah, right? Which is never, the Messiah still hasn't come, right? Is it Netanyahu, right? Like, so they don't believe that Jesus was the Messiah. Then what is he? Is he a charlatan? Is he a crazy fuck? It's because they don't recognize him as a saint, right? In India, he's recognized as a saint. Like the Hindu religion will recognize pretty much anybody as a saint. Like, even if they're not, or they're open to that because they know people can become spiritual. But like the Jewish religion has this Messiah that never comes. And so, like, they don't, what saints do they have, right? Who do they recognize as spiritual people? They recognize religious people, religious leaders who have power and things like this, but in terms of the religion itself, what do they feel about Jesus? Do they celebrate Jesus' birthday? They talk about how great Jesus was? Do they, it's just the opposite. So they have a negative attitude towards Jesus, or he would be celebrated. He would be considered the Messiah. Like, there's some Jewish people that were around Jesus that said, oh, this guy is the Messiah, right? So, his disciples and other people. And so why the fuck are you celebrating the Sabbath? The Sabbath has zero to do with Jesus. It has everything to do with Israel. Like Saturday is the Sabbath. It's a weird thing, right? And that's one of their hallmark, trademark type of, trying to get Christians to celebrate the Sabbath on Saturday. And Charlie Kirk's book's coming out, and who's buying it, reading it, and going, let's do this. Like, how many people? 1,000? And, those people, without Charlie Kirk leading them, right, and, the rest of this stuff, Shabbat Shalom, like, what the fuck is this about, right? And so, this young woman's looking at these people as Christian leaders, but they're not.
Women, they can have it all, but it's not simultaneously, like different seasons.
Okay, so I would agree with that, but what do you mean by have it all, right? What do you mean by have it all? Like, it's, but let's go forward here, because this is where it gets kind of weird.
Your career, again, like I said, is not going anywhere. So what you're establishing now on YouTube and your platform and all that stuff, it's not going anywhere. What I will recommend, though, is when you do have children, do not use your children as pawns for a discount code.
What? What? Again, like this, practice what you preach, bro.
Do not use your child for a free stroller, for some influencer thing. Your children are sacred. Protect them.
Okay, so don't roll your children out on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. Not show their faces, but show them as as pawns and talk about them constantly. I mean, she is the most manipulative person here with her husband's death and her children. My God, like, really? That's exactly what you fucking did, right? You fucking totally just did that, right?
That is your role as a mother. Your platform was given to you by God, so steward it well and steward it properly. But it's not going to go anywhere. What you're building now is not going to get destroyed. I think that's what a lot of people get misconstrued, is thinking like,
Okay, so how many people does she have? Like, if she has a platform, like, you know, she have 10, she has 20, she has 100. Because, like, really, you know, there's a certain number, I would say, and then this isn't about subscribers, it's about views. Like, if you're getting 100 views, like, there's a difference between getting no views, right? So you start out, you make a video, you put it out there, and nobody watches it. Like, nobody fucking watches it. You know, what I went through here on this channel. And, you know, there's different levels, because then you have to deal with things differently. You know, I've had millions of comments. I've had millions, hundreds of millions of views. God knows how many it is now, right? And, you know, videos that had millions of views, just one video. And you have to deal with that video differently than you do with something that gets 2,000 views or 10,000 views or 20,000 views, right? You can't answer all the fucking comments if they all come at once. If it happens like a viral video and you get 10,000 comments, you know, eventually you're just like, I can't read all these comments. I don't have time. Like, I just, you know, and so, but when you depending on the size of your audience, it's different, right? It's, you know, the whole thing is different. Are you merching up? What are you doing? Like, what is your relationship with your audience? These kind of things. But if it's only 10 people, then that means that you don't have anything. And she's an 18-year-old girl. What does she have to say, right? You know, she does some kind of, sexual thing, you know, Instagram model, you know, she's not going to probably do as a Christian girl, right? Hopefully. So, like, what has she got to offer? Like, you know, her audience has to be people, like, younger than her, right? You know, like Erika Kirk's audience has to be people, like, no one's going to listen to Erika Kirk who's lived their life, right? She's full of shit. Like, no real good Christian mom, you know, is going to go, oh, let's find out what Erika Kirk thinks, right? Like, you know, are older people realizing you're wiser and more evolved than they are, right? You know, so, like, there's a story in the Sajmark system where there was a guru, and he was waiting for a disciple. Or the master of the system died, and they had a steward, like the steward of Gondor, like she's talking about stewardship here, right? She's saying the platform was given to you by God, and, well, what does that even mean? Like, or was it Elon Musk, right? Like, you know, everyone can have a platform. It's not given by God, right? This, you know, like, you can treat it like that you're representing God, but she certainly fucking isn't, you know. But this guru dies, and they have a steward, a guy who wasn't a guru. And a young guy comes in. He's younger than the guy running the thing. And the young guy's supposed to replace him. He's been sent by God. And there's a whole thing with it. I forget the end of the story. You know, eventually the guy realizes I forget how he realizes that this guy's the guy, right? He's younger than him, but he's more evolved. Like, sometimes people, you know, haven't been actualized, but they have a higher ceiling, right? Just like with anything, like they have a higher ceiling than other people, and so people can look at them going, oh, you're more evolved, right? But, like, how do you identify people who are, you know, older souls, or souls that have had more lives, or people who have achieved more in spirituality and these things, right? Or just, you know, good at faking it, like Trump is a fake guru, right? He's a fake, you know, saint, or somebody who, like, people look up to and say, oh, this guy knows a lot. Well, he knows a lot about being a grifter. Like, if you want to be a grifter, yeah, he could teach you how to be a grifter. But he's not going to teach you, you know, because he's not, like, there to do that, right? He's not there to, you know, make a lot of junior grifters. He's there to exploit your positive feeling towards him and monetize it in some way. And so, but anyways, let's get back to this.
What I'm building now is going to be worthless once I have a family. No, God will redirect it. He'll turn it into whatever it needs to turn into. Pray on it, because it's not always super clear, but it will come to you. And I think that yes, every season's going to come and have its own time and turn, but if this is what you're focusing on right now, like that's
Like, you might have a platform and you might get married, and your platform kind of disappears for a while. It's like your platform never really took off, and you kind of sort of sponge off your husband's thing, and you hide behind your kids, and you pretend that you're a good Christian mom, and then one day your husband just fucking dies for no reason, like some random furry guy maybe, and then you're like, hey, I'm CEO of my husband's company. Look at this, like I can have both, right?
what you're focusing on. I mean, I don't.
I think you're in a great spot, honestly,
Yeah.
and Erika answered it beautifully. So, again,
Yeah, she answered in a way that, like, she told her not to do all the things that she did, right? And so that's pretty fucked up. Anyways, so those are the Kirks. Okay, so aside from her personal life, whatever that is, and all the other bad decisions or weird relationship with her kids, and her fake grieving and all those things. The difference between her and Candace Owens. I mean, the essential difference. There's a tweet that was recommended to me this morning. Candace Owens saying that TPUSA is literally imploding, and it showed a picture of some guy, I don't know, he was associated with them, saying that she gets the DEI Dummy of the Month award, and there was a crown of like Nefertiti or some Egyptian queen, so a semi-racist kind of comment, and then a bunch of people savaging the guy, saying that she's stupid, and I wouldn't call any of these people stupid, right? Like I call Don Lemon stupid all the time. There's people who are stupid, and none of these people are stupid, right? And so that's, this should be held to a higher standard. Like they're not stupid. Candace Owens is not stupid, and these two guys were not stupid. And the Turning Point guys who do the hosting of the show are not stupid, right? And yet, the fundamental difference is Erica Kirk is backing the official story of her husband's death for no apparent reason, right? And she is backing Israel. Like her husband had, made the decision to get shackled up. I mean, going back to what I was saying about Israel and the celebration of Jesus. They just had the NBA All-Star game, and there is an NBA basketball player, and I just had, think of his name a moment ago, who is, wow, that just disappeared. I was just thinking of, I was cleaning up in the kitchen and taking my supplements. But it doesn't matter. He plays for the Portland Trail Blazers. He's a first-time All-Star, and they played the international team. The international team played. There was one international team and two American teams. He is Israeli basketball player. He wore the Israeli flag on his. So I searched here, Times of Israel NBA All-Star. Denny Advia makes history as the first Israeli to play NBA All-Star of the Times of Israel, right? So this is going to be a huge, there's all these articles about it here, right? So there's 4 articles just from this, because this guy is an Israeli who's, good at basketball. And here he is here guarding Kevin Durant. Denny Avia made history as his first Israeli to play NBA All-Star basketball Sunday, although his team did not progress to the championship game. They lost 2 games. And so, if you went to Google Israel, like whatever, Google specific to Israel or whatever search engine they have there, and you search Denny Advia, there'd be a lot of positive things about him, right? Israel doesn't have a lot of great athletes, not a lot of great Jewish athletes, and he is a person who they are going to celebrate. People celebrate their people and their culture, and Jewish people celebrate Jewish people a lot, right? They celebrate success quite a bit. And so why not with Jesus, right? So Google is the #1 search engine in Israel, which should tell you a lot. So I searched for Denny Advia here, and this is all the stuff they have on pages of these things, right? It's reversed here. It's on the right side, Like he's just obviously popular on their search engine and the rest of these things. So, right, weird thing. Denny, we are so proud of Israeli basketball star, right? And so, 5 days until Denny Avdia plays again. This is like fucking, I'm sure he's one of the most popular, subjects there and talked about quite a bit, right? His success as an NBA basketball player. So why not Jesus, right? Why wouldn't Jesus be celebrated? Like, Jesus is the most successful Jewish person ever in history. Like, he started a religion of over 2 billion people. He's the most famous Jewish person right now in history, more famous than King David or any of the other people in the Bible, Moses, whatever. He's the most successful. So why not celebrate him, right? What's the attitude towards him? Well, then you have to think of him being a fraud. Like, he has to be a bad person. Like, he has to be somebody who, like, why not acknowledge his birthday or any number of things? Why not have something? There's nothing there. And so you have these two people who are Christians, and they're pushing for this. This guy took hundreds of millions of dollars in shekels, and, Charlie Shekels, and he promoted Israel and this Sabbath and these things. Again, smart people. And she is pushing, and then he pushed back against this, right? So, it would be very smart for her and TPUSA to question his official story. Like, that's where the fucking energy is, right? That's why Candace Owens is kicking their ass in views, because people who are part of this do not believe in the government, do not believe in the official story. And they're bailing on Trump, many of them. And they're still pushing Trump. Like, they're pushing these unpopular opinions, and they're pushing Israel, which is, all these young people. This is supposed to be, Turning Point is supposed to be, TPUSA was supposed to be about young people. And so why are they not going with that, right? It's in their best interests as a platform to push back against the official stuff, the official narrative of his death, the government, the Epstein stuff, and Trump. Like, people are bailing on it. And Charlie was starting to bail on it, right? He certainly started to bail on Israel. And so, the difference between Candace and Erika is just that. Like, Erika's backing the official story. Candace isn't wise. She's not, she's also claims to be a godly person. And she talks about her dreams and intuition and things like this. But she backs a lot of other scumbag people. She backed Trump, until she said now he's deep state, but before he wasn't. All these people. And then, she's had the good sense to get out, right? If she's smarter and she has more freedom than these guys, she hasn't been shackled up, at least as far as we can tell, at least in some kind of official way, unless she's just controlled opposition. But she joined the Catholic Church when there's enough evidence about that, that's some fucking mistake, right? Christianity itself, all of it is, icky, but Catholicism, that's, got real issues. So none of these people are really worth listening to, right? Like, they're not telling you the truth. Like, and Candace Owens, of course, lied about these things. But if you're going to have to choose somebody, you would choose Candace, because she's not so far fucking gone that she's saying, trust the official story, trust Trump, trust the government, trust Israel, right? These things. So I want to make a clear distinction here. Like, anybody who is going forward on their spiritual journey, right? Like, you are wherever you are in your spiritual journey. And you're either moving forward or you're moving backwards, or you're religious, and that's something else. Like, religion is not, you haven't started to be spiritual yet. You're talking about God, you have a concept of God. Maybe you pray to God, so there's some spirituality there. You have some kind of dialogue with God, there's something there. But, maybe it's not even God. Like, maybe it's, some other part of your, internal system. You're connecting with God because you're saying God, but you're not receiving information back. Like, do you understand the distinction here? Like, you might pray to God, but you have a, misconception of God's, communication. You don't have an open line of communication. in a sense, God hears all of our thoughts, but it's, love that draws God to you. Like, it's the love of God. Like, it's, God is love. And when you cultivate love in your heart, you draw God to you. Like, if you're a person who doesn't believe in God, but you're very loving, God is very aware of you, right? Because God isn't, God doesn't have a mind. God is is perfection, and perfection doesn't think. Thinking represents choices and individuality, and God has neither of those things. God does not have individuality or choices, and so doesn't need a mind, right? Just will always do the right thing. God will always make the godly choice. God doesn't have the opportunity and the ability to make a mistake, right? God's limited in that way, but God is pulled towards you, the essence of God. Like God is there inside everything and everybody, and it's your choice to connect with God. And so, people who are religious, sometimes they connect with God on some level, whatever it is. It's limited, the Bible, the book, whatever it might be. But, people who have a loving, devotional heart, they're more connected, right? And then they, develop some kind of a relationship. And then that relationship progresses into a spiritual journey, right? But you can say God as a word, God doesn't really have a name, right? It's just what we call God, right? So it has to be something on a different level to connect with God, right? But if you're able to connect with God, then what happens next would be God says something back, like sends information back. And how are you able to receive it? Your heart is your instrument in which you connect to God. It's like it's your phone, it's your communication device, it's your and through feeling. And is your heart clean? Is your heart filled with whatever grossness, filled with you know, any number of perversions, any number of addictions, whatever it might be, any number of just thoughts and crap. And, it's just like with your mind also, what your mind has to interpret what your heart is experiencing. Is your mind clear? Are you clear-sighted? Are you able to hear what God's saying? Because God's going to say things in subtle ways, right? And like what's your, what ways do you have of receiving information from God? It's different for each person. Some people are visual. Some people are audio, like his language, is it feeling, there's different things. And, I know of psychic people who did my meditation. There was a girl who did Sajmark meditation, and she was made less psychic. Like she was picking up, like psychic people are often, like real psychic people are often like crazy because they're picking up things from everywhere. Of course, there's negative disembodied souls, all these things, right? Like in that movie Ghost, where Whoopi Goldberg becomes really, she was a fake medium and then became a real one, and it just stirs a deluge of souls all of a sudden showing up. She can't fucking handle it. Like that movie, The Almighty Bruce, where this character becomes divinity, this Jim Carrey character, and he's hearing prayers, which I know is the case. Like you become really connected to God, you start hearing other people's prayers. Like Babaji, the second master Sajmark system, heard prayers during World War II from both sides. Both sides praying to kill the other side and this kind of thing. Like it was confusing, right? So, it's people who are psychic or have they're very sensitive to this thing. They have to, find a way to be grounded and connect just to the source. There's all these different channels. Like someone who's a channeler, there's all these different, open lines of communication, right? And then you also have to get past the wishful thinking part. You're communicating with God, and then you start making shit up. Like, oh, this is what God told me, because that's what you want to hear, right? Like your own ego then takes over. Like you starts blocking the divine communication of shit you don't want to hear. God telling you shit you don't want to hear, and making up shit you do, right? So there's all these things. Like it's we all have the inherent ability to communicate with God in some way. But why don't we? Like, why don't people cultivate that skill? Why does no one talk about that skill, right? Why is that not, certainly the religion should talk about it, but they don't want you. No, you can't do that. You can't. We're the ones who tell you what God says. We'll tell you what God's words are, and then we'll tell you what they mean, right? Because you guys can't fucking interpret them for yourselves. So this is, the state of humanity right now. People run to these fake, whatever they are, fake, pundit gurus, experts, whatever people, like they're, they have something to offer you and they fucking don't, right? Because, like you have the ability yourself if you cultivate it, and that's what they should be telling you. Why aren't they? And they themselves haven't cultivated that, those abilities. So, so there's that. All right, let's move on to the next thing here. Okay. So I was gonna go to some more Trump stuff, but let's take a little detour to Don Lemons in Barack Obama land.
Alert! Barack Obama just got the biggest standing ovation, unlike J.D. Vance, who got booed at the Olympics. Happy Black History Month.
Who's that dude? So you think it's a big deal that Obama got applause at the fucking NBA All-Star game? It's a mostly liberal NBC audience, and I mean, it's not a TV audience. Obviously, it's the people there, but it's in California, right? So it's in California NBA All-Star game. Of course, he's going to get a round of applause. Like, he makes it a big deal, like something amazing just happened.
Alert! Barack Obama just got the biggest standing ovation, unlike J.D.
Like, look at how happy he is. Like, something like that means something, right? Trump will get a standing ovation at whatever fucking NASCAR bullshit that.
Alert!
Alert! Alert! Alert! Alert! All right. So, I mean, it's just so retarded. But then there was this. My wife just told me about this. I gotta find it. Okay, I found this multiple places, but I like the wipe this guy used here.
Are aliens real?
They're real, but I haven't seen them, and they're not being kept in what is it?
Area 51?
Area 51. There's no underground facility.
Okay, so you're gonna say that now? Aliens are real? Like, you've had all this fucking time. Now, I don't know if he's ever said this before. It's a big thing all of a sudden. But why are you saying it fucking now? Like, if, has he ever said it before? Like, I mean, I don't know everything the guy said. When he was president, he certainly didn't say this. And after Trump got elected, he disappeared for a while. So you're just showing back up now and saying this, right? Aliens are real. They're real. They are real. There's life outside of planet Earth, but we just don't have any. It's not Area 51. There's not here. Like, we don't have. Like, well, how do you know they're real then, right? Like, then say why you know they're real. What do we have that Again, Steven Spielberg's movies coming out, and I mean, there is life outside of planet Earth. I mean, certainly there's etheric life even here. That's not, non-biological life. There's soul life. I mean, we're very primitive in our understanding of these things. But either way, and there's been, and throughout history, there's been spaceships and old art and cave art and space. There's been overwhelming evidence about this thing for forever. For whatever reason, before this, it was everyone knew there was people like this. The reason they wouldn't tell you this is, number one, religion, and number two, governments. If you knew there was beings that had way better technology and were more advanced than we are, than the governments and the religion, these institutions would lose all control. So that's why you don't know about aliens, right? But why are you saying it now? Like, it's,
Unless there's this enormous conspiracy, and they hid it from the President of the United States.
Of course they would. They would totally hide it from you. But well, how do you know aliens are real? Like, is there a follow-up to this? It looks like he's going to... Let me see if there's a longer version of this. So this is when he was president. So I'm going to find the longer version, see if there's anything more he says about it. But the follow-up question is, how do you know they're real? Like, if we don't have any, why do you know that they're real? But this whoever did this clip has this, flashback here.
There's footage and records of objects in the skies that we don't know exactly what they are. We can't explain how they moved, their trajectory. They did not have an easily explainable pattern.
Okay, so here's the kind of follow-up.
Unless there's this enormous conspiracy, and they hid it from the President of the United States.
What was the first question you wanted answered when you became president?
Where are the aliens?
Where are the aliens?
Okay, so that's not funny, right? So, so think about what's being said here, right? Because going back to when he was president, and then Trump released a bunch of shit, and there's all this, evidence of crafts that can do things that human-built crafts can't do. And we're not mature enough to have the technology that we have, and so there's that. Like and I have my various understandings of what's happened, like test tube. You were a slave race created and left behind. Whatever higher developed peoples they were. But there's a long history of more advanced races, people that used to live 1,000 years, things like this, all these kind of things, giants. So there's all this stuff that's out there, right? And so if his first question is where are the aliens, like if he's, it's kind of a joke, he's making a joke of it, and he says that they're real, the follow-up question is how do we know? Like how do you know the aliens are real? This guy fucking doesn't know how to ask questions because that's the obvious question. But, if aliens are real or giants are real, any of these things, that means there's a massive cover-up about everything to do with human life, right? Like it would change the understanding of everything, right? Like everything would change if the idea that there had been aliens here, and not only that there have been aliens, but we knew about it, like the people who run the system, religious leaders and governmental leaders and all these other people, and it's been carefully hidden from people for think about the level of indoctrination and deception, because knowing that there's extraterrestrial life and all that would involve would change everything, like change everything about everything that we know about human life, about God, about all these things, the normal person. So the fact that they withheld that information is completely fucked. I mean, it's really fucked.
Who is there a person that you most want to meet that you haven't met yet?
Okay, so like another very effeminate dude here asking like horrible questions. Why not ask him how he knows? Like you just said, aliens are real. Like he's the president of the United States. He was, just 2 presidents ago, right? 3 if you count Trump twice. But he's saying that they're aliens, and he knows there are, but we don't have any. But he knows that there are. Yes, they're real. Then the follow-up be like, how do you know? What evidence did you see that made you say they're real? Because if you're saying they're real, then you either just declassified shit, or you're telling, is it just your assessment based on the evidence that's been presented that we all have seen, or do you have more concrete evidence? Like you're saying it's a fact that aliens are real. There has to be something substantial that you would say that this is factual. We have some stuff that we know factually would demonstrate that aliens are real, right? Like that kind of, like a body or, a space, like something that you'd be like, all right, this proves it. And, and if that's true, that everything's changed. All right, so there's that. Okay, Trump hasn't responded to what Obama said. I don't know if he's been asked about it. But Obama gave a denial because he's a piece of shit. I was trying to stick with the spirit of the speed round, but since it's gotten attention, let me clarify. Statistically, the universe is so vast that the odds are good that there's life out there. But the distances between solar systems are so great that the chances we've been visited by aliens is low, and I saw no evidence during my presidency that extraterrestrials had made contact with us. Really? 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 What a piece of shit you are. Like fucking just an absolute piece of shit. Which, most of you already kind of knew. But, you were asked this question in the capacity that you had inside information. No one's looking for your fucking opinion. He wasn't saying, what's your opinion about fucking aliens? Oh, yeah, they're definitely real. They are real. That's what you said, right? They are real. You didn't fucking hear.
Where are the aliens?
Where are the aliens? Are aliens real?
They're real, but I haven't seen them. And
they're real, but I haven't seen them. That's what you said. They're real, but I haven't seen them. So they're real because the universe is so fucking vast that they have to be real, and there's got to be some life out there because why wouldn't there be? Or do you have any specific fucking data or evidence that would show that they're real? because, you know, we can think they're real, but I mean, you know, unless you have some kind of evidence that you know, beyond what, I mean, the evidence that I can gather just from ancient art and these various accounts of aliens and, you know, all these writings and, you know, these ancient writings and reports about aliens and giants and shit like that, right? Like, there's evidence out there. There's pictures of them, like paintings of them and things like that, right? Cave art, all that kind of shit. Artifacts, you know, and technologies and stuff, things where, you know, so there's a lot of that kind of stuff. So for you said, yeah, they're real. And then now you're saying, well, because the universe is so fucking vast, like, what a piece of shit, right? You know, don't say anything. Like, you know, you knew when you said they're real that this was going to be about you having specific information and evidence. I mean, you know, and this clown, I miss you. Miss you so much. Man, we miss you. Emojis. I miss you so much. Miss you, President Obama. Thank you. I've lost sleep. This person. President Obama, the best president ever. So this is on his official bullshit, you know, thing. Him and his dude here. Right there. There's that. All right, you know. Jesus Christ. Is that their daughter? Okay, so I saw something I think on CNN yesterday, and I recorded it on the TV. I got to, you know, copy it onto my phone and maybe put it in this video next one. But they're worrying about AI, like there's all these, you know, doomsday shit coming out. Just throwing that in with the aliens. Then there was this.
Mr. President, were you aware that Secretary of Commerce visited Epstein's island, and do you continue to have?
No, I wasn't aware of it. No, I didn't. I actually haven't spoken to him about it. I wasn't. But from what I hear, he was there with his wife and children. And I guess in some cases, some people were. I wasn't. I was never there. Somebody will someday say that. I was never there.
Yeah, it's about you, bro. Right? Fucking Mika. You know, Savannah Guthrie said people are essentially good. The Jeffrey Epstein stuff was known about by Democrats and my wife and I were talking about how, you know, there are people who are still trying to get to Epstein Island and be with Jeffrey Epstein even after he was convicted. Like, they knew, like, this is post 2006. There's a lot of info, you know, that they want. And, you know, how do they not know that he might be blackmailing them, all that kind of shit. The association with a convicted pedophile, they didn't give a shit about that, any of that stuff, right? They thought he was immune from it, whatever. They're, you know, like, these are power players. And the media on the left and the right covered it up for years. And only because Trump is getting rung up by the, you know, powers that be, do they give a shit about it. And so you think people are good? Like, look at what's in the Epstein files. Like, that's just one small glimpse of the depravity, right?
It has been a significant week in the chase for truth and justice in the case of Jeffrey Epstein. A Trump cabinet official admitted to being on the pedophile's island after lying about it. Ghislaine Maxwell floated a quid pro quo, promising to clear Donald Trump and Bill Clinton if she is granted clemency. Republicans began to see the unredacted files, only to find even more redactions. And the Justice Department spied on those lawmakers making searches, something that caused even Speaker Mike Johnson to condemn the administration. And speaking of the DOJ, Pam Bondi acted more like a campaign surrogate than the Attorney General. She refused to answer basic questions about her handling of this case and of the files.
Indicted.
Excuse me, I'm going to answer the question.
Answer my question.
No, I'm going to answer the question the way I want to answer the question.
No,
Your
you're going to answer the
theatrics are
question
ridiculous.
the way I asked. I believe you.
Okay, we saw that shit. Remember that?
Witnessed from a lawmaker.
I personally lost all faith in our justice system. It is a system of injustice.
I ain't cutting Trump any slack. Now that we know that they've covered up the conspirator documents, I would say is shocking to the conscience that Trump called it a hoax. Shocking.
You watch, this is going to bring the country down. It's your fault, not mine.
This is either a cover-up or it's incompetence. And I want somebody to go to jail for it.
Usually a Pam Bondi performance like that would be just fine. in MAGA world. But I think it actually says a lot about this Epstein situation that it didn't work this way. They still do want some answers. And the fact that she was stonewalling and yelling and all the theatrics about a sex pedophile ring, to MAGA's credit, that really rubbed them the wrong way.
Don't you dare accuse Pam Bondi of doing her job, right? Because that's really at the...
Oh, Jesus, sorry, bro. You know, the title of this is How MAGA Turned on Trump Over Bondi. I mean, you know, Donald Trump has about 20% of the population, you know, the voting population. He had 40%, you know, 20% was shaky, you know. They didn't want to vote for Biden. They're kind of, you know, they're sticking their toe in the water. I mean, but the real MAGA base, 30%, 20% tops. And I would say he lost half of it. And the other half is like, you know, tepid. I mean, you just, in general, the enthusiasm wanes because everybody thought that he was going to do something for them personally. And they, you know, not just Trump, any president. And they don't, right? You know, the promises that and just not even just the promises, the things don't get better the way people think they are, right? There's, you know, I mean, for most people, it doesn't, you know, most voters, enthusiastic voters, they're disappointed. Like, you know, how many times have you been like, oh my God, I'm so pleased with my vote, right? You know, that your enthusiasm after you voted matches your anticipation of what was going to happen when you pulled the lever. So that's why people lose faith in voting, because it's like, really didn't do anything. You know, like, you know, whatever your thoughts and hopes about it, it just doesn't, you know, translate. But holy shit, right? Trump is like, you know, like he's sinking like a fucking, like a bucket of shit on a rope, right? There's nothing going to stop it from happening because, you know, like he can't reverse any of this stuff. And he doesn't have any, there's no like great thing waiting for Trump, like for America. Like whether Trump was president or not, there's not some like, you know, economic boom or some kind of thing where you're like, oh, you know, there might be some like, you know, remission of the cancer. Like you get cancer, things get really bad. And there's a remission. You have a period of time where things are better. They're not as good as they were. But like you're not, you know, you're cancer free for about a year and then it comes back, right? And it's worse than ever. Like little things like that. But nothing like, you know, America is just, it's in free fall. And not just America, the world. I mean, it's, you know, this is the end of something, right? The end of an era, of an empire, of a, you know, a time in history, right? You know, I was on this in 2015, like when I first saw Trump's quote. I said, oh, this guy's fucking compromised with Epstein. Like, you know, you guys can, I mean, that, you know, that image that I have is from July, the one that I have the quote in Bloodthirst you guys have seen. That's from July of 2015, right? So, you know, and I mean, I probably even knew about it beforehand and was covering it and, you know, could say that, you know, what Trump was, whatever he was, right? He was entertaining, he was a character, but I knew exactly who Trump was because I saw him on The fucking Apprentice. And so, you know, it's just all wishful thinking, or you want to be part of a group, or you want to tell people what they want to hear, but all these people are pieces of shit. Like all these pundits that are now turning on Trump, just like Candace Owens. Yeah, it's good that you finally come around to the truth, but you could have seen the truth in the beginning because it wasn't fucking hard. You just didn't want to say something because it would hurt your audience or your relationships with Trump or whatever the fuck the reason you did that, and the reason the people did it with Joe Biden when he was obviously senile and they didn't say it till, you know, it was way too late and his presidency was over. And so there's that. Read the disturbing emails between Epstein and New Age guru Deepak Chopra. They are buried in bombshell files. Only sinners invited. Bring your girls. Deepak Chopra cultivated an image of enlightenment and detachment, preaching consciousness and higher awareness. You know, this is a big part of the whole shitting on heartfulness. God is a construct and girls are cute. Chopra, who remains married to his wife Rita after 56 years, wrote The Convicted Sex Offender. Is there anything else? Only sinners are invited. In another exchange, the best-selling spiritual advisor wisecracked about a Vatican event that he was scheduled to speak with the Pope. Only sinners are invited. I was never involved in, or nor did I participate in any criminal exploitive, or any contact I had was limited and unrelated to the abusive activity. Oh, here he is, here.
Mr. Chopra, sir, how are you?
I'm great. You're not going to ask me about Epstein, are you?
You built your entire career on spirituality. What do you have to say about your actions with Epstein? Any regrets? You have any regrets? I said, do you have any regrets about your relationship with Epstein?
Well, he's got these sparkly Liberace glasses here.
What's that? You want me to decide? No, I'm asking you, sir.
Well, you give me your opinion.
Look, what?
You have a right to your opinion.
Look, I'm asking you, sir. When did you know the scope of Epstein's actions, sir?
All right, you get the idea. He's not answering. So you guys know about, the thing he wrote about, the fact that he's even bailing with Epstein, and, let's see what the date was. I don't know what the date of that email was. Be good if they had said it. The pair struck up a fast friendship in 2016, 8 years after the financier's 2008 conviction. So this is in 2016. Fucking recent, right? And so you guys who know that, I do this Sajmark meditation. And this guy, Dodgy, was, a good spiritual practitioner, and he sunk like a stone. And just an absolute piece of shit. And the third master, Charji, had kind of made fun of Deepak Chopra and wanted no part of this bullshit. He saw through him as a fraud and whatever. And he made that clear, like it was well known. And he could have associated with people like this, but, Dodgy didn't. He started to, he made business decisions to partner with people like Deepak Chopra. And Deepak Chopra wrote the introduction to one of his books. And so, I asked this guy I call the Dodgy Truther, someone who doesn't like Dodgy, who sends me shit all the time. What are the people saying? What are the Abhyasis, the spiritual aspirants, saying? And many of these people, I have a lot of respect for their spiritual prowess and their devotion to God. Like real great people, real saintly people. Like you would think of when you think about like real good Christians or real good Buddhists. There's some people who are just a cut above. And they're incapable of calling bullshit on Dodgy. They just can't do it. Like, part of it's the culture, or part of it's whatever else. But, it's really disappointing. When they rolled this guy out, he's just fucking gross and weird. Fuck is this guy? He's leaving his wife in the dust there. So I don't know if they have any pictures of him. But he decided to be friends with Jeffrey Epstein after he was a convicted pedophile. Like that's then in itself is like, but saying that thing about the girls and these other things. Like Jesus fucking Christ, bro. And then all the stuff that it, involves with heartfulness, all these things I talked about. But anyways, there's that. Okay, so if one of my bits here is I cover the side effects of pharmaceutical drugs when I see them in commercials. Like if I'm fast forwarding through commercials, which I always do, I'll always stop and go back and look at a pharmaceutical ad because the side effects are atrocious. And my favorite one is Jardiance, and they came out with a new commercial. I hope they have the same side effects because they say something here at the end, and I want to do a joke about it. And it'll only work. Well, I'll make it work either way. My wife and I were talking about Botox and how, it's botulism, which is a form of like food poisoning, which is a neurotoxin that, destroys nerves and affects your nerves. And women are shooting it right into their faces because it'll make them look better. Like they're destroying nerves. People take it for migraine headaches and other things and, all kinds of things. And it's like fucking, a neurotoxin. They know this and they do it anyway, and you can tell them it. But just because they're so concerned about beauty, like this, what they consider beautiful, which is killing nerves in their face, so it'll relax their face, and then all the stuff with migraines. Like that's how fucked things are. People don't care about the side effects because, they want whatever the thing does, or they want the promise of what it does. We see this with the GPL-1 or GLP-1s or whatever they're called, the Ozempics and things. People want to be thinner, so, they'll wreck their guts, right? And that's the kind of world we live in. This is addressing the Savannah Guthrie thing where she said people are good people. Like it's, you're not a good person if you're doing things like that. I mean, you're not a functioning person, right? You're making bad decisions. You're putting poison in your fucking face.
Little pill with a big story. The little pill with a big story to tell.
Jardiance plays a role in my story, too. I have type 2 diabetes, but I manage it well.
Boom. He manages it well. It's behind the scenes.
Jardiance, a once daily pill that helps lower my A1C. It works 24/7 in the body to flush out some sugar.
And for adults with type 2 diabetes and known heart disease, Jardiance can lower the risk of cardiovascular death, too.
Boom, that guy.
Side effects include increased ketones in blood or urine and infection between and around the anus and genitals. Both.
Wait, this is it. It's right here. Let's watch this.
Infection between and around the anus and genitals. Both may be fatal. Severe.
So, serious side effects include increased ketones in the blood or urine, an infection between and around the anus and genitals. Both may be fatal. So you can get a fatal taint infection, right? So I'm glad they put that there. So the possibility, in terms of this drug that's supposed to help with your diabetes, which is, pretty severe, can have negative effects, but there's ways to, there's natural ways, dietary ways. I mean, there's things you can do. I'm not advising anybody, but people know that there's alternatives and there's other drugs. But they're saying it's worth this pill with a great big story to tell. Is this little pill with a great big story to tell. It's worth it to take it and run the risk of a
between and around the anus and genitals. Both may be fatal. Severe allergic reactions, dehydration, urinary tract or genital yeast infections in men and women, and low blood sugar. Stop
a fatal taint infection.
Taking and tell your doctor right away if you have nausea, vomiting, stomach pain, tiredness, rash, swelling, trouble breathing or swallowing. Tell your doctor about lightheadedness, weakness, fever, pain, tenderness, redness, or swelling between the anus and genitals.
Exactly. I mean, if you have this, tell your doctor about lightheadedness, weakness, fever, pain, and tenderness, redness, or swelling between the anus and genitals.
Anus and genitals. You may have increased risk for lower limb loss. Call your doctor.
You might lose your legs.
Right away if you have new pain or tenderness, sores, ulcers, or infection in your legs or feet.
Exactly.
Jardiance is a little pill with a big story to tell. And if you ask me, it's pretty swell.
So you're saying that a fatal taint infection is pretty swell? I mean, it is swelling, right? Swell was a way to say cool or good or whatever. People said swell were considered old when it's past my generation. But it's pretty swell. Jardiance is pretty swell. Like fatal taint infections they're pretty cool, right? And so there's that. Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. Not greetings. What the fuck am I talking about? All right. All right, that's an auspicious start. So I got two comments to get to. The first one is, on February 28th, the quarter of a century date for the Whispers prophecy was received. That's the one that says in a quarter of a century there'll be a major turbulence or upheaval or something that'll set about a chain of events where that'll set a chain of events that will be a difficult period for Earthmen. I'll read that message either the day before or the day of or whatever. I'm not sure if it's to the date. So, we'll see. But this person said, on February 28th, the quarter of a century date, the Whispers prophecy was received. There happens to be extremely rare 6-planet alignment to occur that day. Many things feel aligned at that moment for the prophecy to come to pass. You mentioned a while ago that it would make a second Whispers video someday. I'm looking forward to it. If you do, grateful for the work. I should do it around that time. I have so many prophecies that are not prophecies. There was the first book that was published. Nobody knew almost nobody knew about this situation. There was, Babaji, the second master of the system, was a very gifted, medium. And he intercommuned all the time. He intercommuned with all these various saints and higher developed souls. And, in a way where he got all of his information from, divine beings. Where Master Charji, he had that point opened by Babaji so it could happen. But it never happened, and Charji was always kind of bummed about it. And then this French woman showed up with these messages saying Babaji was channeling. And Charji, it took him a while to accept that. And when he finally did, he put together a book and said that there's a special book and it's going to be really expensive. Most of the books they sold were basically at cost. They were hardcover books for about $10. Most of them printed in India. And so, this one was $250, leather bound. And he said he wouldn't tell anybody what it was about. And when it came out, there was these various whispers messages and this explanation of sort of the, what was going on there. And he wrote like a good introduction to it. And some people quit, like they didn't like it. It was a weird thing. But, I really have gotten a lot out of the books. And there was a section called Prophecies. But when the other books came out, and then when they released all the messages in order, there's like 20,000 of them, of these channeled messages. There's quite a number of them that are prophetic. They just happen to pick some of them for the prophecies. And Babaji said these are prophecies. And there's other ones that are, they're very, much could have been in that section. So eventually I'll read all those. But they're kind of specific, but, they'd be kind of redundant, but they're interesting. Anyways, so, we're about 10 days away, 12 days away. We'll see if anything happens or not. Like, I'm kind of disconnected from it. Like when I first read it, I'm like, well, that's 25 years from now. It was about 20 years when I read it. So the book came out in 2005. So I'm like, oh, that's 25 years from now, 20 years from now. And a lot of shit happened. I went through a divorce, the time in India, remarried, a lot of shit's happened in this 20-year period. But now it's come around, and we'll see if there's, what happens. If it's to the date, like, that's pretty brutal. But, I don't know. We'll see. And then somebody wrote a long post about they had, again, I don't recommend anything. I just want to say that because lots of people are now buying those rebounders. And I've been enjoying it. My legs are a little bit sore because I think I've overdone it. But I really like it. But somebody recommended taurine, and I've been taking taurine and vitamin E. I was taking it 3 times a day, and I cut back to 2 or 1 vitamin E to go with the taurine. And, so somebody recommended, they said it helped them. Somebody else recommended stuff that they're doing. I've been doing a lot of shit for this. Like, I found all these herbs. I have that book that guy I've talked about, Marquise Roscance, whatever he is. He's a very California guy. He's kind of off-putting, but he wrote a great book. It has all these various plants and their medicinal value. And I went through this book. I did other research, and I've been taking all these supplements. And so, but it seems like whatever I'm doing now it's I talked about this in a recent video, the voiceover. I don't know if people have heard it yet. I think it's in the one that just came out yesterday. About how the spiritual aspect of this thing. The spiritual aspect about physical health. And I don't think I'm gonna. I would be shocked if I died suddenly. And I don't intend to. And I've done what I can. I've put a lot of effort. I went to this holistic practitioner. And there's a woman in there. She was like, she kind of manages. You go through these various things. They have it's a chiropractic place, and they do body work, and they evaluate your body, and they do posture stuff, and they have something that works it's some kind of energetic reader of things in terms of muscle testing, right? Muscle testing is a way that you can tell if something's good for you or not. Is a whole thing. People, again, not recommend anything. But they have all these other things. They have acupuncture and some other stuff. And they have sort of a caseworker. And she said, well, let's set some goals. And she goes, like, a goal could be like meditate half an hour a day and go for a mile walk. And I'm like, well, I walk over 4 miles a day in the winter and like 7 or 8 in the summer. And like every day. And I've meditated for like 20,000 hours. So, I mean, I'm doing all these things, and, I meditate on the heart, and my family doesn't have any history of heart disease. So, it's just, I mean, I'm not doing anything that would cause it. Like, I don't have any kind of a lifestyle issues or anything that I'm doing. I'm taking supplements, and, I do a lot of beet powder and a lot of other stuff. So, I mean, there's nothing to really say about it. It's like, there's just so much you can do. Like, there's so much time and energy you can devote to health, and there's so many supplements you can take, and at some point you just get old and you die, right? It's like it's inevitable. But I mean, I don't think that's happening to me anytime soon. Again, I mean, I'll do what I can, and because some people are writing concerned or whatever, and I'm not. It isn't like I'm just doing a lot of things that are unhealthy. Like, I don't eat unhealthy foods, and and I'm aware of these other things, and my health has improved. I feel pretty good. I felt, other than the the fucking heartbeat being, I would have this thump kind of like feeling. And I mean, many people experience this post-COVID. And it's just, but I think, I haven't had the regular heartbeat. Like, I've had it once or twice in the last 3 or 4 days. It seems to be, getting better. Anyways, let me wrap this one up here. Only spirituality will save this world. It's paramount, definitely important for the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.